David stared at the wedding invitation in his hands, the expensive paper feeling heavier than it should. The gold lettering seemed to mock him as he read it for the third time. Victoria Hayes and Jonathan Mills cordially invite you to celebrate their union. The date was circled in red on his calendar, 3 weeks away. He set the invitation down on his massive oak desk and walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows of his corner office. 40 floors below, the city buzzed with life. Cars moved like tiny ants through the streets. People hurried along sidewalks with their daily concerns. None of them knew that David Park, the 34-year-old founder of TechFlow Industries, was having what might be the worst day of his year. "Mr. Park?" His assistant knocked on the door. "Your 2 o'clock is here." "Give me 5 minutes," David called back, not turning from the window. "Victoria." Even thinking her name made his chest tight. 2 years had passed since she walked out of his life, taking with her not just his heart but his business partner and best friend. Jonathan had been like a brother to him. They'd built TechFlow together from a cramped garage to a billion-dollar empire. Until Jonathan decided he wanted Victoria more than their friendship. The betrayal cut deeper than any business loss ever could. David had thrown himself into work after that, expanding the company, making deal after deal, proving to the world that he was fine. Better than fine. He was thriving, but this invitation proved otherwise. Victoria and Jonathan wanted him at their wedding. Why? To show everyone that they'd won? To parade their happiness in front of him? For maybe they genuinely thought enough time had passed that he'd be happy for them. They were wrong. David's phone buzzed. A text from his younger sister, Jenny. Saw the engagement announcement in the paper. "You okay?" He ignored it. Jenny meant well, but she lived 3,000 miles away with her own family. She couldn't understand what it felt like to see your ex-girlfriend's face smiling from every society page, announcing her engagement to your former best friend. The worst part wasn't that Victoria had moved on. David could handle that. The worst part was that everyone in their social circle would be watching him at that wedding, waiting to see if the great David Park would crack, if he'd show up alone like some pathetic figure from a tragic movie. His assistant knocked again. "Mr. Park? The meeting?" "Cancel it," David said. "Cancel everything for today?" He heard her hesitate. He never canceled meetings, ever. In 7 years of working for him, she'd never heard those words. "Are you feeling sick, sir?" "Just do it, Lisa." David grabbed his jacket and headed for the elevator. He needed air, space, time to think. The lobby of his building was always busy. Employees hurrying between meetings, visitors checking in at the security desk, delivery people wheeling packages across the marble floors. David usually loved the energy of it all. Today it felt suffocating. He pushed through the revolving door onto the street. The September air was crisp with just a hint of autumn coming. Perfect weather for a run. David hadn't planned to exercise, but suddenly he needed to move. He jogged the 6 blocks to his apartment, changed into running gear, and hit the streets again. Running always cleared his head. The rhythm of his feet on pavement, the burn in his lungs, the simple focus on putting one foot in front of the other. He'd been running since high school, back when he was just another kid with big dreams and no money to make them happen. Those early days seemed so far away now. He'd grown up in a small apartment with his parents and sister. His dad worked 2 jobs to keep them afloat. His mom cleaned houses during the day and took online classes at night, determined to get her degree. They never had much, but they had each other. Success had changed things. Not in bad ways exactly, but in ways David sometimes missed. Now he lived in a penthouse apartment that cost more per month than his parents' old house was worth. He drove cars that most people only saw in magazines. He ate at restaurants where a single meal cost more than his family used to spend on groceries in a week. But success hadn't prepared him for heartbreak. All the money in the world couldn't fix what Victoria and Jonathan had broken. David ran harder, pushing his pace until his legs burned. He ran through Central Park, past couples walking hand in hand, past families having picnics, past kids playing soccer. Normal people living normal lives without billion-dollar companies or society weddings or ex-girlfriends, marrying their former best friends. After an hour, he found himself in a neighborhood he rarely visited. Small shops lined the streets, a bookstore with cats sleeping in the window, a bakery with the smell of fresh bread drifting out, a coffee shop with mismatched chairs and local art on the walls. It started raining just as David realized how far he'd run. Not a gentle drizzle, but a sudden downpour that sent people scrambling for cover. David sprinted toward the coffee shop and pushed through the door, dripping wet and breathing hard. The place was small and warm, with exposed brick walls and jazz music playing softly. A few people sat at small tables reading books or typing on laptops. Behind the counter, a young woman was making drinks with practiced efficiency. "Rough day for a run," she said with a smile as David approached the counter. He looked down at himself. His expensive running gear was soaked through. His hair was plastered to his head. He probably looked like he'd been swimming in his clothes. "Didn't check the weather," he admitted. "Happens to all of us. What can I get you?" David studied the menu board behind her. He usually drank coffee from the machine in his office or had Lisa pick up something from the fancy place downstairs. This menu was simpler: coffee, tea, pastries made fresh daily. "What's good?" he asked. "Depends what you're in the mood for. Need something strong to warm you up, or something sweet to improve your day?" David looked at her more carefully. She was probably late 20s, with dark hair pulled back in a messy bun and kind eyes. She wore a simple green apron over jeans and a t-shirt. No makeup that he could see, but she didn't need any. "My day definitely needs improving," he said. "Rough day at work?" "Something like that." She nodded like she understood completely. "I've got just the thing. Trust me." David found himself smiling for the first time all day. "Sure." She moved behind the espresso machine with the kind of confidence that comes from years of practice. Her hands were quick and sure as she pulled shots and steamed milk. She talked while she worked. Easy conversation about the weather and the neighborhood and the best places to run when it wasn't pouring rain. "You're not from around here," she observed. "How can you tell? Your gear costs more than my car. Plus, you look like you're lost." David laughed. Actually laughed. "That obvious? Don't worry about it. Sometimes getting lost leads to finding something better." She handed him a large mug filled with something that smelled like heaven. "Rich coffee, but with hints of cinnamon and chocolate. What is this?" "Family recipe. My grandmother's secret. She always said coffee should make you feel like someone cares about you." David took a sip. It was perfect. Warm and complex and comforting in a way he hadn't felt in years. "It's amazing." "Good. You looked like you needed some caring today." David stayed in the coffee shop longer than he'd planned. The rain kept coming down outside, but honestly, he didn't mind. For the first time in weeks, he felt relaxed. The barista had introduced herself as Luna, and she had this way of making conversation that felt natural and easy. "So what do you do when you're not getting caught in rainstorms?" Luna asked during a brief lull between customers. "I run a tech company," David said, keeping it simple. "Cool. Big company or startup?" "Somewhere in between." He took another sip of the incredible coffee. "What about you? You seem too good at this to be new." Luna laughed. "I've been making coffee since I was 16. Started at a little place near my high school. Turns out I have a talent for knowing what people need to drink." "Is this your shop?" "I wish. I'm just the afternoon shift supervisor. The owner is this sweet old man who lets me experiment with new recipes. This place puts me through school." "What are you studying?" "Social work. I want to help kids who grew up like I did. Foster care, group homes, that kind of thing." David felt something shift in his chest. Most people in his world talked about their vacation homes or their latest shopping trips. Luna was talking about helping kids nobody else wanted. The door chimed and a man in an expensive suit walked in, shaking rain from his umbrella. He looked around the small coffee shop like he'd stepped into the wrong universe. "This is a coffee shop, right?" he asked Luna, his tone suggesting the place wasn't meeting his standards. "Yes, sir. What can I get for you?" "I need a triple shot espresso with oat milk, half a pump of vanilla, extra hot in a large cup." "Coming right up." Luna got to work, but the man kept talking. "This neighborhood is really going downhill. I remember when this whole area was decent. Now look at it. Coffee shops that look like someone's garage." David felt his jaw tighten. The man was being unnecessarily rude, but Luna just kept making his drink with a professional smile. "You know what I mean?" The man continued, looking at David like they were in some kind of club together. "Places like this used to know their place." "Actually," Luna said calmly, handing him his coffee, "this place has been here for 30 years. It was here before any of the fancy buildings went up. We're part of what made this neighborhood special in the first place." The man orted. "Right. Well, next time I'll go somewhere more appropriate for my standards." "That sounds like a great plan," Luna said, still smiling. "Have a wonderful day." The man left, and David stared at Luna in amazement. She'd handled that perfectly. Firm but polite. She didn't let him walk all over her, but she didn't escalate the situation either. Wow, David said. What? The way you handled that. Most people would have either backed down or gotten angry. Luna shrugged. You learn to deal with all kinds when you work with the public. That guy was probably having a bad day and needed someone to blame. No point in making it worse. Still, that was impressive. Thanks. Though honestly, you looked like you wanted to say something to him yourself. David had wanted to say something. Actually, he'd wanted to do more than say something. The man's attitude had reminded him of every snobby social gathering he'd been forced to attend. Every conversation where people talked down to service workers like they weren't even human. People like that make me angry, he admitted. People like what? People who think money makes them better than everyone else. Luna studied his face. You don't seem like that type. What type do I seem like? I don't know yet. Still figuring you out. The rain started to slow down outside. David knew he should probably head back to the office. Lisa would be wondering where he disappeared to. But he didn't want to leave. This conversation was the most real interaction he'd had in months. Can I ask you something? Luna said. Sure. Are you okay? I mean, when you came in, you looked like someone had told you your dog died. David almost smiled. No dead dogs, just life stuff. Want to talk about it? That was the moment David realized something. Luna was exactly what he needed. Not just for coffee, but for the wedding. She was smart, confident, and genuine. She could handle difficult people without losing her cool. She wasn't impressed by money or status. She was perfect. The idea hit him so suddenly that he almost spilled his coffee. This might sound crazy, he said slowly. I like crazy. What's up? David hesitated. How do you ask someone you just met to pretend to be your girlfriend at your ex's wedding? How do you explain that you need someone who won't be impressed by wealth or intimidated by society people? I have this situation, he began. What kind of situation? I need to go to an event. A wedding. And everyone there is going to be watching me to see if I show up alone. Luna raised an eyebrow. Ex-girlfriend's wedding? How did you know that? Lucky guess. Plus you have that look. What look? The look of a guy whose ex is marrying someone he knows. David stared at her. Are you psychic? Nope, just observant. So what's the problem? Go to the wedding, wish them well, leave early. It's not that simple. These people, they're going to be watching my every move, looking for signs that I'm not over it, waiting for me to embarrass myself. Are you over it? The question caught him off guard. Was he over Victoria? Or was he just over being humiliated? I thought I was, he said honestly. But getting that invitation brought everything back. Luna nodded. So you need a date. Someone to show them you've moved on. Exactly. But it can't be just anyone. It has to be someone who can handle that crowd. Someone who won't be intimidated or impressed by all the show. Sounds like you need someone pretty special. I do. David took a deep breath. I think I need someone like you. Luna blinked. Me? I know how this sounds. We just met, but watching you handle that guy talking to you, you're exactly what I need. Someone real. Are you asking me to be your fake girlfriend? I'm asking you to come to a wedding with me, as my date. I'll pay you for your time, obviously. Luna set down the cup she'd been cleaning. How much? $10,000. $10,000? For one night? It's a big deal for me. These people, they matter for my business. I need to look like I'm doing well. You are doing well. You're drinking $15 coffee without checking the price. David realized she'd noticed more than he thought. It's complicated. Life usually is. Luna was quiet for a moment. Why me? You probably know lots of women who would go to a fancy wedding with you. That's exactly the problem. Everyone I know wants something from me. They'd see this as an opportunity to get closer, to become part of my life permanently. I need someone who doesn't want anything except the payment we agree on. And you think I don't want anything from you? Do you? Luna looked at him for a long moment. That $10,000 would pay off my student loans and cover my rent for the rest of the school year. So you'll consider it? I'll think about it. But I need to know what I'd be getting into. What kind of wedding is this? How fancy are we talking? Very fancy. Black tie. Expensive venue. People who judge you based on your shoes. Great. I don't even own anything black tie appropriate. That's not a problem. I'll take care of all that. Luna shook her head slowly. This is definitely the weirdest conversation I've had at work. Is that a yes? That's a maybe. Give me your number. Let me sleep on it. David pulled out his business card and handed it to her. Luna read it and her eyes widened. Tech Flow Industries? You're David Park? You've heard of me? I've heard of your company. My professor mentioned you in class last week. Something about your foundation work with foster kids. David had forgotten about that. His company donated millions to children's charities every year. It had started as a tax write-off but had become something he actually cared about. Yeah, we do some work in that area. Interesting. Luna slipped the card into her apron pocket. I'll call you tomorrow with my answer. The rain had stopped completely. David knew he needed to leave, but he didn't want this conversation to end. Luna? Yeah? Thanks for the coffee. And for listening. Anytime. That's what coffee shops are for. Luna stared at David's business card for the third time that evening. She'd Googled him after her shift ended, and the results were overwhelming. David Park wasn't just successful. He was worth more money than she could even imagine. Articles called him a genius, a visionary, one of the most eligible bachelors in the city. Which made his offer even more confusing. Why would someone like him need to pay for a date? Her roommate Alex walked into their tiny kitchen, where Luna was eating leftover pizza and scrolling through her laptop. You look stressed, Alex said, grabbing a soda from the fridge. Weird day at work. Weird how? Did someone try to pay with Monopoly money again? Luna laughed despite her mood. No. Someone offered me $10,000 to go to a wedding with him. Alex nearly choked on his drink. I'm sorry, what? You heard me. Luna, that sounds like the beginning of a very bad movie. Or a very dangerous situation. It's not like that. He's legitimate. I looked him up. He's actually famous. Famous for what? Being a serial killer? Famous for being a billionaire. Alex sat down across from her. Okay, now I'm really confused. Why does a billionaire need to pay someone to go to a wedding with him? Luna had been wondering the same thing. His ex-girlfriend is marrying his former best friend. He doesn't want to show up alone, so he picks a random barista. This doesn't add up. I know it sounds crazy. It sounds like something you should run away from as fast as possible. But Luna couldn't stop thinking about David's face when he'd talked about the wedding. He'd looked genuinely hurt, and the way he'd handled himself in the coffee shop, he'd been polite to her, angry at the rude customer, and completely down to earth despite probably wearing more money and clothes than she made in a month. What if it's real? She asked Alex. What if what's real? What if he really just needs someone to help him get through a difficult night? What if it's that simple? Nothing involving $10,000 is ever that simple. Alex was probably right. But Luna kept thinking about her student loan balance, about the stress of working 25 hours a week while taking a full course load, about how $10,000 would change everything for her. She picked up her phone and dialed before she could change her mind. David Park. His voice was different on the phone, more formal. She almost hung up. Hi, it's Luna from the coffee shop. Luna, I was hoping you'd call. I've been thinking about your offer. And I have questions, of course. Want to meet somewhere to talk? Luna looked around her cramped apartment. The walls were thin and Alex was clearly listening to every word. Okay, where? There's a park near your coffee shop. Bryant Park, do you know it? Yeah, I know it. Tomorrow at 6? There's a spot by the fountain that's usually quiet. 6 works. Luna? Yeah? Thanks for calling. After she hung up, Alex stared at her. You're really going to do this, aren't you? I'm going to hear what he has to say. That's all. But even as she said it, Luna knew she'd already made up her mind. The next evening, Luna arrived at Bryant Park 15 minutes early. She'd changed clothes 3 times, finally settling on jeans and a sweater that didn't have any coffee stains. She felt nervous, which was silly. This was just a conversation. David was already there when she arrived, sitting on a bench near the fountain. He stood up when he saw her, and Luna noticed he looked nervous too. Thanks for coming, he said. Thanks for suggesting somewhere public. My roommate was convinced you were going to murder me. David laughed. Smart roommate. So what questions do you have? Luna sat down on the bench, leaving space between them. First question, why me, really? You could hire an actress or a model or someone who does this professionally. That's exactly why not them. Anyone I hire professionally will either want more than we agreed on, or they'll treat it like a job. This isn't a job. It's more personal than that. What is it then? David was quiet for a moment. It's about proving something to myself, that I can walk into that room and not fall apart. And you think having me there will help with that? I think having someone real there will help. Someone who doesn't care about impressing those people or being part of that world. Luna understood that. She'd grown up around people who cared too much about what others thought. Foster families who worried more about their reputation than the kids they were supposed to be helping. Second question. What exactly would I have to do? Be my date? Talk to people? Dance with me if they play music? Act like we're together? How together? David's cheeks got slightly red. Not that together. Just like we're dating. Hold my hand. Let me put my arm around you. That kind of thing. Okay, third question. What's the dress code? Black tie. Very formal. I'll take care of getting you something appropriate to wear. You'll buy me a dress? I'll hire someone to help you pick out everything you need. Dress, shoes, accessories. Consider it part of the deal. Luna tried to imagine herself in a designer gown. It seemed impossible. Fourth question. Tell me about these people. What am I walking into? David's expression got more serious. Rich people. Old money families. Business executives. The kind of people who judge you before you even open your mouth. Sounds fun. They're not bad people. Mostly. Just sheltered. They live in a bubble where everyone has money and connections and went to the same schools. And your ex? What's she like? Victoria is complicated. She's smart and beautiful and knows exactly how to work a room. She'll probably try to make you feel uncomfortable. Why? Because that's what she does. She needs to be the center of attention. Having me show up with someone new will bother her. Luna found that interesting. So this isn't just about you proving you're over her. It's about getting under her skin a little too. David looked embarrassed. Maybe. Is that petty? Completely. But I understand it. They sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes, watching people walk through the park. Office workers heading home. Couples holding hands. Families with small children. Can I ask you something now? David said. Sure. Why are you even considering this? I mean, I know the money helps, but this isn't exactly a normal situation. Luna had been asking herself the same question. I grew up in foster care. Moved around a lot. You learn to adapt to new situations quickly. You learn to read people and figure out what they need from you. That sounds difficult. It was. But it also taught me things. How to handle myself around all kinds of people. How to stay calm when things get weird. How to protect myself. And you think this situation is weird but manageable? I think you're probably not as complicated as you think you are. You got hurt by someone you trusted. Now you want to show them you're fine? It's pretty normal, actually. David smiled. When you put it like that, it sounds simple. Most things are simpler than we make them. So is that a yes? Luna took a deep breath. It's a yes, but I have conditions. What conditions? First, I want half the money up front. Just in case you change your mind or this turns out to be some kind of scam. Fair enough. Second, I get to be myself. I'm not going to pretend to be someone I'm not or put on some fake personality. I wouldn't want you to. Third, if things get uncomfortable or weird, I'm leaving, no matter what's happening. Absolutely. And fourth, after this is over, we're done. No follow-up dates. No trying to turn this into something real. This is business. David nodded, but Luna thought she saw something flicker across his face. Disappointment, maybe? Those are all reasonable conditions, he said. Good, so when is this wedding? 2 weeks from Saturday. That's not much time to get ready. I'll set up the shopping appointment for this weekend. And maybe we should meet once or twice before the wedding, just so we're comfortable with each other. Like practice dates? Exactly. Luna stood up from the bench. Okay then. I guess we're doing this. David stood too and held out his hand. Partners? Luna shook it. Partners. As she walked home, Luna couldn't shake the feeling that she was about to change her life in ways she couldn't imagine. She just hoped she wasn't making a huge mistake. Luna stared at herself in the full-length mirror and barely recognized the woman looking back. The dress was perfect, a deep navy blue that brought out her eyes, elegant but not flashy. The personal shopper David had hired knew exactly what she was doing. You look incredible, the shopper said, adjusting the neckline slightly. Mr. Park is going to lose his mind when he sees you. Luna blushed. Over the past 2 weeks, she and David had met 3 times to prepare for tonight. Coffee dates where they practiced talking like a couple. A dinner where they worked on their story. How they met, how long they'd been dating, what they liked about each other. The lies had come surprisingly easily. Maybe because they weren't entirely lies. They had met at a coffee shop. She did find him easy to talk to. And somewhere during those practice sessions, Luna had started to forget this was all pretend. Her phone buzzed. A text from David. "Car's downstairs when you're ready. No pressure, but you're going to be amazing tonight." Luna grabbed her small purse, also courtesy of the personal shopper, and headed downstairs. The black car waiting for her was longer than her entire apartment. David stepped out as she approached, and his face went completely blank. "Wow," he said softly. "Good wow or bad wow?" "Definitely good wow." "You look," he shook his head. "You look beautiful." Luna felt butterflies in her stomach. David looked pretty amazing himself in his black tuxedo. She'd never seen him dressed up before, and the effect was striking. "You clean up pretty well yourself," she said. David smiled and offered her his arm. "Ready for this?" "As ready as I'll ever be." The drive to the wedding venue took 20 minutes through city traffic. Luna watched the buildings get bigger and fancier as they traveled. When they finally arrived, she understood why David had been nervous. The hotel was massive, with marble columns and doormen in uniform. Expensive cars dropped off guests who looked like they belonged in magazines. "Remember," David said as they walked toward the entrance, "we've been dating for 4 months. We met when you were covering a shift at a coffee shop downtown. I asked you out 3 times before you said yes. And what do I love about you?" Luna asked, partly teasing. "My sense of humor and the fact that I actually listen when you talk." "And what do you love about me?" David stopped walking and looked at her seriously. "Your kindness. The way you see the best in people, how real you are." Something in his voice made Luna's heart skip. For a moment, it didn't feel like pretending. Inside the hotel, the wedding was exactly as fancy as David had warned her. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling. Flowers that probably cost more than Luna's monthly rent decorated every surface. The guests looked like they'd stepped out of a fashion magazine. David, a woman in an expensive pink dress, approached them with air kisses. "How wonderful that you came. And who is this lovely creature?" "This is Luna," David said, his hand warm on her back. "Luna, this is Catherine, Victoria's aunt." "So nice to meet you," Luna said with a smile. Catherine looked her up and down like she was examining a piece of art. "And how did you two meet?" Luna launched into their practice story, keeping it simple and believable. Catherine listened with the kind of polite attention that rich people perfected, hearing the words but clearly making judgments. "How interesting," Catherine said when Luna finished. "And what do you do, dear?" "I'm in graduate school for social work." "Oh." Catherine's smile became slightly frozen. "How noble." David's hand tightened on Luna's back, but Luna just kept smiling. She'd dealt with people like Catherine her whole life. Foster families who thought they were doing charity work. Teachers who had low expectations. Social workers who saw her as just another case file. "I think it's important work," Luna said calmly. "There are a lot of kids who need someone in their corner." "Of course," Catherine said, already looking around for someone more interesting to talk to. "Well, enjoy the wedding." As Catherine walked away, David leaned down to whisper in Luna's ear. "You handled that perfectly. She's not so bad. Just doesn't know how to talk to people who aren't exactly like her." They made their way into the main ballroom, and Luna had to work not to stare. Everything was white and gold and sparkling. Round tables with more forks than Luna knew how to use. A dance floor that looked like it belonged in a palace. And then she saw Victoria. The bride was everything David had said and more. Tall, blonde, absolutely stunning in a dress that probably cost more than Luna's entire education. She was surrounded by a group of women who hung on her every word. "There she is," David said quietly. "She's beautiful." "Yeah, she is." Luna looked at David's face and saw something that made her stomach drop. He was staring at Victoria with an expression Luna couldn't quite read. Sadness, longing? She couldn't tell. "David?" Victoria's voice carried across the room. She was walking toward them now, her wedding dress trailing behind her like something from a fairy tale. "I can't believe you actually came." "Wouldn't miss it," David said, but his voice sounded tight. Victoria's eyes shifted to Luna, and Luna felt like she was being Raid. "And you must be David's friend." The way she said, "friend," made it clear what she thought about Luna's place in David's life. "I'm Luna," she said, extending her hand. "Congratulations on your wedding." Victoria shook her hand with the tips of her fingers like she was afraid of catching something. "Thank you. You know, I'm surprised David brought a date. He's usually more of a lone wolf at these things. Maybe he just hadn't found the right person yet," Luna said sweetly. Victoria's smile got sharper. "Maybe, though I do hope you're not expecting this to be serious." David tends to get bored quickly. Luna felt David stiffen beside her, but she kept her voice light. "Good thing I'm interesting enough to keep his attention." "I'm sure you are," Victoria said, but her tone suggested the opposite. "Well, I should go greet my other guest. Do enjoy yourselves." As Victoria walked away, David let out a breath Luna hadn't realized he was holding. "I'm sorry about that," he said. "Don't be. She's just marking her territory." "What do you mean?" "She doesn't want you back, but she doesn't want anyone else to have you either." "It's pretty common, actually." David looked at Luna with surprise. "How do you know that?" "I told you I'm good at reading people. She's been watching you since we walked in. Not because she misses you, but because she wants to make sure you're not doing better without her." "And am I? Doing better without her?" Luna looked at him carefully. "I think you're starting to." The evening continued with dinner and speeches and endless conversations with people whose names Luna forgot immediately. But she found herself enjoying it more than she'd expected. David stayed close to her, introducing her to people with genuine pride in his voice. When older men talked down to her, he redirected the conversation. When women made subtle digs about her background, he made it clear he didn't appreciate it, and Luna found herself falling for him a little more with each protective gesture. When the dancing started, David led her onto the floor for a slow song. His hand was warm on her waist and he smelled like expensive cologne and something uniquely him. "Thank you," he said as they swayed together. "For what?" "For being exactly what I needed tonight." "For being yourself, that was the deal." "I know, but it's more than that now." Luna looked up at him. "David, I know what we agreed. I know this is supposed to be business. But somewhere along the way it stopped feeling like pretending." Luna's heart was racing. She'd felt it too, the shift from fake to real, from business to something deeper. "We can't," she whispered. "Why not?" "Because you're you and I'm me. Because this is temporary. Because in a few hours this all goes back to normal." "What if I don't want it to go back to normal?" Before Luna could answer, the music stopped. And standing at the edge of the dance floor, watching them with an unreadable expression, was Victoria's new husband, Jonathan. "David," he said, his voice loud enough for nearby couples to hear. "Having fun?" David's whole body tensed. "Jonathan." Interesting date choice, very authentic. The insult was clear, and Luna felt David's anger radiating through his tuxedo. "Careful," David said quietly. "Or what? You'll steal my business partner too?" The words hung in the air like a challenge. Luna realized that everyone around them had stopped dancing and was watching. This was exactly what David had been afraid of, a scene that would be talked about for months. Luna squeezed David's hand and stepped forward with her brightest smile. "You must be Jonathan. I've heard so much about you. Victoria looks absolutely radiant tonight. You're both so lucky to have found each other." Jonathan blinked, clearly not expecting kindness. "I hope you don't mind if I steal David back," Luna continued. "They're playing our song." She pulled David away from Jonathan and back into the crowd of dancers before anyone could say another word. "Our song?" David asked, his voice shaky with leftover anger. "The one that's playing right now," Luna said. "Sometimes you just have to make things up as you go along." David stared at her like she'd just saved his life, which Luna realized she probably had. "I think I'm falling in love with you," he said, and Luna, despite all her rules and walls and careful plans, realized she was falling too. The car ride back to Luna's apartment was quiet. Too quiet. David sat on his side of the leather seat, and Luna pressed herself against her door, watching the city lights blur past the window. The magic of the evening was fading, replaced by the reality of what had just happened between them. "Luna," David started. "Don't," she said softly. "Please don't say anything yet." David nodded and looked out his own window. The silence stretched until the car pulled up in front of Luna's building, a far cry from the luxury hotel they'd just left. "I'll walk you up," David said. "You don't have to." "I want to." They climbed the 3 flights of stairs to Luna's apartment in silence. At her door, Luna fumbled with her keys, suddenly aware of how different their worlds really were. David probably had a penthouse with a doorman and an elevator. She had a 3rd-floor walk-up with a broken light in the hallway. "Thank you," she said when she finally got the door open. "For tonight. For everything. The money will be in your account tomorrow morning, as promised." "I know." Luna hesitated. "David, what you said at the wedding? Forget I said it. We had a deal. You kept your end of it perfectly." But Luna could see in his eyes that he didn't want her to forget, and the truth was she couldn't forget either. "Good night," she whispered. "Good night." Luna closed the door and leaned against it, still wearing the beautiful dress that would go back to the store tomorrow. In a few hours, she'd be back in her coffee shop uniform, and David would be back in his corner office, and tonight would feel like something that happened to someone else. She changed out of the dress carefully, hanging it up like it was made of glass. When she looked in the mirror, she was just Luna again. No fancy hair or makeup, no borrowed elegance, just a girl who'd spent one evening pretending to belong in a world that wasn't hers. Her phone buzzed. A text from Alex. "How did it go?" "Are you rich now?" Luna typed back. "It's complicated. Tell you tomorrow." But sleep didn't come easily. Every time Luna closed her eyes, she saw David's face when he'd said he was falling in love with her. She remembered how it felt to dance with him, how natural it had been to slip her hand into his, how right it felt when he looked at her like she was the only person in the room. The next morning, Luna checked her bank account and nearly dropped her phone. The money was there exactly as promised. $10,000 that would change everything for her. She could pay off her student loans, cover her rent for months, focus on school without working so many hours. So why did she feel so empty? Luna went to work at the coffee shop, but her heart wasn't in it. She made drinks automatically, smiled at customers without really seeing them. Her manager asked if she was feeling okay. She said she was fine, but it was a lie. Around noon, the door chimed and Luna looked up to see a familiar figure. Not David. She'd been watching for him all morning. But the personal shopper who'd helped her get ready for the wedding. "Luna?" the woman said. "I have something for you." She handed Luna a garment bag and a small box. "I don't understand," Luna said. "Mr. Park asked me to bring these by." "He said they're yours now." Luna stared at the bag. "The dress? And the shoes. He bought them. Said you shouldn't have to give back something that looked like it was made for you." The woman left and Luna stood holding the bag, feeling like she might cry. David had bought her the dress. The beautiful, expensive dress that had made her feel like a princess for one night. Her coworker raised an eyebrow. Secret admirer? Something like that. That evening, Luna sat in her apartment with the dress laid out on her bed. She couldn't stop thinking about David, about how he'd protected her at the wedding, how he'd made her feel like she belonged, how he'd looked at her like she was precious. Her phone rang. David's name on the screen. "Hi," she answered. "Hi. Did you get the dress?" "You didn't have to do that." "I wanted to." "It's yours." They were quiet for a moment. "Luna, can I ask you something?" "Sure. Are you happy?" "I mean, really happy with your life the way it is?" The question caught her off guard. "What do you mean?" "I mean, are you happy working at the coffee shop and going to school and living paycheck to paycheck? Or do you ever wonder what else might be possible?" Luna felt tears prick her eyes. "That's not fair." "What's not fair?" "You can't just show up in my life and make me question everything. This is my life. I worked hard for it. I'm proud of it. I'm not saying you shouldn't be proud. I'm just saying, what if there was more?" "More like what?" "More like us," Luna closed her eyes. "David, we're from different worlds. So it matters. Tonight was fun, but it wasn't real. I don't belong in your world. What if I belong in yours?" "What does that even mean?" "It means I've been thinking about you nonstop since I dropped you off. It means I keep remembering how you made me laugh, how you handled Victoria, how real everything felt when I was with you. It means I don't want this to be over." Luna's heart was racing. "David, I know you felt it too. At the wedding. When we were dancing. That wasn't pretending." "No," Luna admitted. "It wasn't." "Then why are we pretending now that it didn't mean anything?" "Because I'm scared," Luna said, the words tumbling out before she could stop them. "Because guys like you don't end up with girls like me. Because when you get bored or your friends don't approve or you realize How different we really are. I'll be the one left with a broken heart. What if I don't get bored? What if my friends' opinions don't matter? What if our differences are what make this good? Luna wanted to believe him, but she'd learned early in life that wanting something didn't make it real. I need time to think, she said. How much time? I don't know. David was quiet for a moment. Can I see you tomorrow? Not for anything fancy. Just coffee. At your place. Why? Because I miss you. Because one night wasn't enough. Because I think we could be something amazing if you'd let us try. Luna looked at the dress on her bed, remembering how it felt to be the woman David looked at with such tenderness. Okay, she whispered. Tomorrow. The next day, David showed up at the coffee shop 10 minutes before Luna's shift ended. He was wearing jeans and a simple sweater, clothes that probably still cost more than Luna made in a week. But he looked more like the man who'd sat in her coffee shop that rainy day than the billionaire from the wedding. Hi, he said when she handed him his order. Hi, are you ready to go? Luna nodded, suddenly nervous. This was different from their practice dates or the wedding. This was just them with no agenda and no script. They walked to the same park where they'd made their deal. The autumn air was crisp and the trees were just starting to change colors. I have something to tell you, David said when they sat down on a bench. What? I called Victoria yesterday. Luna's stomach dropped. Oh, I wanted to thank her. Thank her for what? For leaving me.
For marrying Jonathan.
For forcing me to go to that wedding. David turned to look at Luna. Because if none of that had happened, I never would have met you. David, I'm not saying it didn't hurt. It did, but I realized something yesterday. I wasn't really in love with Victoria. I was in love with the idea of her. The perfect life we were supposed to have together. And now? Now I know what it feels like to be with someone who sees me for who I really am. Someone who challenges me and makes me laugh and doesn't care about my money or my reputation. Luna felt her walls starting to crumble. What are you saying? I'm saying I want to try this. Really try. Not fake dating for a wedding, but real dating. Real relationship. Real everything. What if it doesn't work? What if it does? Luna looked at David's face, at the hope and vulnerability there. She thought about how empty she'd felt since the wedding ended, how much she'd missed talking to him, laughing with him, feeling like she mattered to someone. I don't know how to be with someone like you, she said honestly. I don't know how to be with someone like you either. But I want to learn. It won't be easy. The best things never are. Luna took a deep breath. I have conditions, David smiled. I'd be disappointed if you didn't. First, we take this slow. No rushing into anything. Agreed. Second, I keep my job and my apartment and my life. I'm not looking for someone to rescue me. I wouldn't want to rescue you. I like who you are exactly as you are. Third, if this gets too complicated or too hard, we can walk away. No hard feelings. Deal, but Luna, yeah? I don't think either of us is going anywhere. He was right. As scared as Luna was, as impossible as it seemed, she couldn't imagine walking away from this. From him. So what happens now? She asked. Now we see what happens when a billionaire and a barista try to fall in love for real. Sounds like the beginning of a very strange story. The best kind, David said, reaching for her hand. And for the first time since the wedding, Luna let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, this crazy thing between them might actually work. 6 months later, Luna would realize she was right. But that's another story entirely.